How did Victorian Muslims celebrate Christmas? At 6 a.m. on December 25, 1888, the winter sun was yet to rise over the English city of Liverpool. A Victorian terrace house was feverish with activity. The soft glow of candlelight emanating from 8 Brougham Terrace revealed men and women busily putting up decorations and preparing food for the big celebration ahead, Christmas Day. In one corner, a familiar Victorian scene of a woman playing the piano and directing hymn rehearsals, the singers' voices muted by the howling of a bitter northeasterly wind as it rattled the thin panes of glass. This was Britain's first mosque and Muslim community preparing for their very first Christmas Day. At 8 a.m., having led the tiny congregation in the early morning prayer, the imam finally opened the mosque doors. Imam William Henry Abdullah Quilliam founded the mosque after embracing Islam in 1887, aged 31 years old. He was greeted by more than 100 of the city's poor, who had been invited to enjoy a charitable Christmas breakfast inside what locals called Islam Church. As the group of recent converts served the paupers a hearty meal of sandwiches, bread and meat, seed loaf, bun loaf, bread and butter, tea and coffee, the music began. Hymns praising the birth of the Prophet Isa, or Jesus, rung out through the venue. By evening, numbers swelled. Word had got around, and the Muslims offered a substantial tea and small musical concert to the visitors. The entertainment began with mesmeric performances by 2 young Muslims before some delightful airs upon the zither, the fairy bells and the mandolin by one Miss Warren. This reminds us there was an earlier generation of Muslims, looking to spread the word of Islam through finding points in common rather than things to argue about. Finale was a magic lantern show and photo series from the Imam's recent tour across distant Muslim lands. These descriptions of Victorian Muslims at Christmas were taken from the pages of the Crescent, the country's first Muslim newspaper. It was published by the Liverpool Moslem Institute between 1893 and 1907 and was recently made available online by the Abdullah Quilliam Society, which is based at the historic mosque, in partnership with the British Library. This reminds us there was an earlier generation of Muslims, looking to spread the word of Islam through finding points in common rather than things to argue about, said Timothy Winter, a prominent British Muslim scholar. Winter, the Dean of Cambridge Muslim College and lecturer in Islamic Studies at the Faculty of Divinity, University of Cambridge, converted to Islam in 1979. He has worked extensively with the archives. Britain's first Muslim community mostly comprised English converts. The Christmas scenes, described in every January issue of the Crescent, may come as a surprise. Winter said the festivities demonstrated a willingness to appropriate local traditions, something that was easier because the group had grown up with them. They possessed a spirit of openness and hospitality and were more concerned with God and truth and conveying the word as opposed to boundary issues and questions of identity and difference, Winter told Al Jazeera. The Victorian Muslims were not celebrating Christmas in the Christian sense, said Humayun Ansari, professor and author of The Infidel Within Muslims in Britain since 1800. They simply wanted to reach out to the community. In doing so, Ansari said, Quilliam and the early British Muslims were indigenizing their Muslim identities. What Quilliam is doing in these early examples is trying to communicate that Islam is more familiar to the Christians of Britain than they think. He is trying to show that it is not something foreign and alien, but part of the Abrahamic tradition, Ansari told Al Jazeera. These early British Muslims were taking elements of British indigenous culture deemed acceptable within the Islamic framework and marrying them with their religious identities. In doing so, they offer a roadmap and blueprint for what an indigenous British Muslim identity might look like today. In addition to the mosque, the Muslims of Liverpool founded a school, orphanage and a museum. At school, students were taught a curriculum that integrated Islam with mainstream British education, including music classes. They took part in literary and debating events titled A Night with Charles Dickens, Oliver Cromwell and Ancient Britons. In the playground, boys played football and cricket. The Crescent newspaper, edited by Quilliam, regularly published inspiring quotes of notable Brits such as Shakespeare and Lord Tennyson. Quilliam's role and influence were such that he was given the title of Sheikh al-Islam of Britain by the Ottomans, and when he left Liverpool in 1908, it seems his community disbanded too. Today, There are more than 2.5 million Muslims in Britain and, unlike Quilliam's community, they hail from a multitude of ethnic and cultural backgrounds and observe Islam differently. The Victorian Muslims were a small community, almost exclusively white English, said Sadi Ahmed, founder of Everyday Muslim, an organization which preserves Britain's Muslim heritage. Today, we have Muslims in Britain whose families have come from all over the world as well as those who are ethnically English, and this inevitably means they approach Christmas in a number of ways, she told Al Jazeera. The issue recently came to the fore when Tesco, a supermarket brand, released its festive advertising campaign featuring a Muslim family celebrating Christmas. Critics threatened to boycott the company because they saw Islam as incompatible with Christmas. However, others welcomed the advert as embracing multiculturalism. Some Muslims will completely shun it as a Christian festival, believing it has nothing to do with Islam, said Ahmed. Others will embrace it as a secular British tradition, putting up trees, exchanging presents and eating a halal turkey on Christmas Day. And then there will be those viewing it as a celebration of the birth of an important prophet of Islam. Britain's Muslim community is far more diverse today than it was when Quilliam was alive, and this is why their views on Christmas are equally diverse. Thank you for watching. For the follow-up, subscribe to the channel yourself here. History of Christmas Day and its celebration in South Africa. Christmas Day, celebrated on December 25th in Catholic, Protestant, and most Orthodox churches, is a public holiday in South Africa. On this day Christians commemorate the birth of Jesus Christ in Bethlehem. The date is traditional and is not considered to be the actual date of his birth. The story of Christ's birth has been handed down for centuries, based primarily on the Christian Gospels of Matthew and Luke. Historians differ about when Christians first began celebrating the Nativity of Christ. Most scholars, however, believe that Christmas originated in the 4th century as a Christian substitute for the pagan festival of Saturn celebrations of the winter solstice. Christmas is the only remaining Christian event which virtually the whole world acknowledges. Albeit it is celebrated worldwide, it has largely lost its Christian character and is now often focused on goodwill and celebration with friends and family. Gift-giving is a near-universal part of Christmas celebrations. The giving of presents was used by Christians around the world to proclaim the good news of the real gift, the Christ child, who was born to die and give us the gift of pardon from sin and eternal life. Presently, it is typically the largest annual economic stimulus in South Africa and other countries. According to Saintho's latest article on South Africa's demographics, in terms of religious affiliation, about 2/3 of South Africans are Christian, mainly Protestant. They belong to a variety of churches, including many that combine Christian and traditional African beliefs. Many non-Christians espouse these traditional beliefs. Other significant religions are Islam, Hinduism and Judaism. There are increasing attempts to decrest Christmas. Many companies do their best to avoid the word Christmas and will rather refer to season's greetings. This is a controversial topic as decresting Christmas will aggravate many Christians and open up debates about other religious holidays. Thank you for watching. For the follow-up, subscribe to the channel yourself here. Christmas is not a competition. Have fun however you want. The 25th on your own can be the loneliest day. Just make sure you're good to yourself. This year, for the first time, I will be waking up on Christmas Day without any children in my house. As readers of this column know, I separated from my wife earlier this year, and my 2 youngest daughters will be getting their stockings and presents at their moms as will my 2 eldest, with their mom. I know this is a time of year that many people dread, and single parents are among them. Christmas Day on your own seems to represent not joy and togetherness, but melancholy and separateness. Having said that, although I can't be certain how I'm going to react, I am at peace with the situation. This may have something to do with the fact that my brother lives a few streets away and I can eat Christmas dinner with him. Also, my 2 younger daughters are coming to join us at my brother's house afterwards. So I'm not going to spend the day crying into my mulled wine in crippling isolation. Those who do have to go through that isolation, whether through age, separation or for other reasons, have my sympathies. The 25th can be the loneliest day. To those people I can only hold out one or two strategies for getting through it. The first is to take my late father's view, which was typically English pragmatist. Christmas is just another day. Which it is. All the layers of expectation, illusion, dream, wealth and community are at least partly myths. Yes, families do get together at Christmas, but as often as not they fight and find ways of making one another miserable. So don't imagine you are missing as much as you think you are missing. Anyway, what is the real meaning of Christmas? I know what it isn't. It isn't about beating yourself up. If it's about love, as it's often said to be, that must not exclude self-love. Christmas Day is not a day for hating yourself or self-pity, which is an aspect of self-hate. So what can you do, in practical terms, if you are alone at Christmas? I would allow myself to do things I might not do on other days. If I were a smoker who had quit, I might allow myself a few fags so long as I didn't fear falling back into addiction. Who's going to stop me? If I were a glutton, well, Christmas Day is the perfect occasion for chocolates and Christmas pudd with brandy butter even if it is a supermarket Christmas for one. If I were lazy, then I should stay in bed and watch box sets. If we're a stoner, I'd get stoned. I have found other practical ways of softening the blow. I am having a Christmas celebration, with stockings and turkey and everything, with all my 4 daughters together. Not on the 25th of December. We're going to have a great time on the 23rd of December, and I'm looking forward to it immensely. Yet there is a real sense that Christmas Day is a time of reckoning. Some people have known through no fault of their own. Many of us, however, bear some responsibility for our solitude. Christmas Day is a good day for self-examination, and perhaps to start being honest with ourselves and making a change. We could start by apologizing to those we have wronged, or forgiving those who have wronged us. Why wait for the new year? And at the end of the day, if Christmas is a disappointment, so what? Life is full of disappointments, some of them fall on the 25th of December. Christmas is about rebirth, renewal and a certain spirit of generosity, towards yourself as well as to others. It is not a competition to see who has the most presents, or the biggest turkey, or the most extended family. It is, if you like, a sacred day for yourself as much as anyone else. Make the most of it, together or alone. Thank you for watching. For the follow-up, subscribe to the channel yourself here. Is December 25th the real birthday of Jesus? Christ is born? Although most Christians celebrate December 25th as the birthday of Jesus Christ, few in the first 2 Christian centuries claimed any knowledge of the exact day or year in which he was born. The oldest existing record of a Christmas celebration is found in a Roman almanac that tells of a Christ's Nativity festival led by the Church of Rome in 336 AD. The precise reason why Christmas came to be celebrated on December 25th remains obscure, but most researchers believe that Christmas originated as a Christian substitute for pagan celebrations of the winter solstice. To early Christians and to many Christians today, the most important holiday on the Christian calendar was Easter, which commemorates the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. However, as Christianity began to take hold in the Roman world, in the early 4th century, church leaders had to contend with the popular Roman pagan holiday commemorating the birthday of the unconquered sun Natalis Solis Invicti, the Roman name for the winter solstice. Every winter, Romans honored the pagan god Saturn, the god of agriculture, with a festival that began on December 17th and usually ended on or around December 25th with a winter solstice celebration in honor of the beginning of the new solar cycle. This festival was a time of merrymaking, and families and friends would exchange gifts. At the same time, Mithraism worship of the ancient Persian god of light was popular in the Roman army, and the cult held some of its most important rituals on the winter solstice. After the Roman Emperor Constantine I converted to Christianity in 312 and sanctioned Christianity, church leaders made efforts to appropriate the winter solstice holidays and thereby achieve a more seamless conversion to Christianity for the emperor's subjects. In rationalizing the celebration of Jesus' birthday in late December, church leaders may have argued that since the world was allegedly created on the spring equinox late March, so too would Jesus have been conceived by God on that date. The Virgin Mary, pregnant with the Son of God, would hence have given birth to Jesus 9 months later on the winter solstice. From Rome, the Christ's Nativity celebration spread to other Christian churches to the west and east, and soon most Christians were celebrating Christ's birth on December 25th. To the Roman celebration was later added other winter solstice rituals observed by various pagan groups, such as the lighting of the Yule log and decorations with evergreens by Germanic tribes. The word Christmas entered the English language originally as Christ's Mess, meaning Christ's Mass or Festival of Christ in Old English. A popular medieval feast was that of Saint Nicholas of Myra, a saint said to visit children with gifts and admonitions just before Christmas. This story evolved into the modern practice of leaving gifts for children said to be brought by Santa Claus, a derivative of the Dutch name for Saint Nicholas Sinterklaas. Thank you for watching. For the follow-up, subscribe to the channel yourself here. Christmas Day in the United States. Many people in the United States celebrate Christmas Day on December 25th. The day celebrates Jesus Christ's birth. It is often combined with customs from pre-Christian winter celebrations. Many people erect Christmas trees, decorate their homes, visit family or friends and exchange gifts. What do people do? People celebrate Christmas Day in many ways. In the days or even weeks before Christmas Day, many people decorate their homes and gardens with lights, Christmas trees and much more. It is common to organize a special meal, often consisting of turkey and a lot of other festive foods, for family or friends and exchange gifts with them. Children, in particular, often receive a lot of gifts from their parents and other relatives and the mythical figure Santa Claus. This has led to Christmas Day becoming an increasingly commercialized holiday, with a lot of families spending a large part of their income on gifts and food. Many Sunday schools, churches and communities organize special events. These can include decorating the neighborhood or a shopping mall, putting up a Christmas tree, and planning a nativity display, concert or performance. A lot of plays and songs have aspect of Christmas as a theme. Some groups arrange meals, shelter or charitable projects for people without a home or with very little money. Public life. Government offices, organizations, businesses and schools are closed, almost without exception. Many people visit relatives or friends and are out of town. This may cause congestion on highways and at airports. Public transit systems do not run on their regular schedules. In general, public life closes down completely. Background. The original meaning of Christmas is a special church service, or Mass, to celebrate the birth of Christ. The story of the Nativity, or the events surrounding the birth of Jesus, are particularly important in religious celebrations of Christmas. However, many traditions that are around today have their roots in pre-Christian winter festivals. These include the importance of candles and decorations made from evergreen bushes and tree, symbolizing everlasting light and life. In Roman times, a midwinter festival was held. This was a relaxing time with a lot of parties and merrymaking. It was also common to give other people small gifts, such as dolls for children and candles for adults. This festival culminated with the celebration of the winter solstice, which fell on December 25th in the Roman calendar. In Scandinavia, a festival called Yule and lasting up to 12 days was held in late December and early January. In this time people burnt logs and held parties. These customs have influences how Christmas Day is celebrated today in the United States. The Bible does not give a precise date for the birth of Jesus. It is also unclear when December 25th became associated with the birth of Jesus, although it may have been around 200 years after his birth. In the early centuries of Christianity, the anniversary of the birth of Jesus was not a cause for celebrations. The idea of turning this day into a celebration started in the early Middle Ages in Europe. During Reformation and up until the middle of the 1800s, Christmas was often not celebrated because partying and merry-making was seen as unchristian. From about 1840, celebrating Christmas became more widespread. December 25th was declared a federal holiday in the United States in 1870. Since then Christmas Day has become a steadily more important holiday. Symbols. A wide range of people and objects represent Christmas. These include baby Jesus, the Nativity and the Three Kings, but also Santa Claus, reindeer and elves. Common objects at this time of year are pine trees, holly, decorations, fairy lights, candles and presents. Christmas Day is now truly a mix of religious celebration and commercial interests. Thank you for watching. For the follow-up, subscribe to the channel yourself here. What is the meaning of Noel? Every year, people sing songs like the first Noel at Christmas, and many wonder what a Noel is. In French, Joyeux Noël means Merry Christmas. Our modern English word comes from the Middle English Noel, which Webster's 1828 dictionary defined as a shout of joy or Christmas song. The roots of the word are the French Noël Christmas season, which may come from the Old French Noël. This, in turn, is derived from the Latin natalis, meaning birth. Since Christmas is the celebration of the birth of Christ, it was natural for people to refer to the celebration as the Nativity or the birth. Another possible root for Noel, also from the French, is the word nouvelles, meaning news. As the popular carol says, the first Noel the angels did say / was to certain poor shepherds. The meaning of news certainly makes sense in that context. However, the early usage and definition of Noel seem to focus more on the idea of birth, and that is probably the more accurate meaning. There are very few records giving the details of the earliest Christmas practices, but at least as early as the 4th century, some Christian groups were celebrating Nativus Christus on December 25th. Since their almanac referred to the day as the birth of Christ, it would be natural to see derivative words like nail and Noel used in the same way. In the Middle Ages, several English carols began with Noel, and French carols similarly used Noel. Since early songs often used the first word as the title, a Noel came to refer to any song about the birth of Christ. Because of this, the word now carries the dual meaning of a Christmas song and the Christmas celebration itself. Our English carol The First Noel was first published in a book titled Carols Ancient and Modern, edited by William Sandys in 1823. The message of the song is the joyous pronouncement that the King of Israel has been born. When we sing the song or wish someone a joyous Noel, we are following the example of the angels, announcing the good news that Jesus Christ was born, not just for Israel, but for all mankind, so we could receive forgiveness of sins through him. Thank you for watching. For the follow-up, subscribe to the channel yourself here.